I'm a professor at the University of Oslo, and I'm a professor in media studies. Yeah.
And why is it that you came to the conference for media in Prague?
Actually, I came because I was invited by the organizers to give a keynote, and they wanted me to talk about my research. They said they had checked my profile online and found several topics of interest, and they said I could choose or suggest whatever I wanted to talk about. So I had the few suggestions because I work in the field of several fields. I work in the field of political communication and journalism, and I work in the field of media policy regulation and public service broadcasting.
Yeah.
So we decided on the topic together, and they just arranged for me to come. So I was, I think, an honored guest speaker. I was happy to be invited, because this was a really new experience to be here at this specific conference. I've not been at it before.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I find your presentation really interesting because you came up even in the first evening with such a fresh and progressive idea, I thought, with the quiz, for example. And I was thinking, filling in a quiz before putting on a comment, and you were actually allowed to comment on it. Don't you give people who are actually not smart enough to say it like that? Don't you give them the chance to react then? If you put a quiz online like that?
If you put a quiz online
Yeah.
in comment sections,
Yeah.
that might be a good thing, because you would prevent trolls and people who are just making fun of everything and being like bullies online. If they don't really want to contribute, then they should not be included in the conversation. I think that's the logic behind this. And the logic is that if you want to comment, then you should be able to answer 3 simple questions about what the article is about. So this is something that was introduced, an experiment, and it was quite successful because people like to take the quiz. They thought it was fun, so it was kind of also gamification of news, make it into something else than just reading passively. Because I think now media users, they don't really feel the role as passive, as comfortable and rewarding as before. Now we are used to social media engagement and participation in a whole another level. So now we really expect for journalism to kind of include us, or the users want to some degree of engagement, because they also know things, they also have experiences, they also have eyes and ears, and are kind of not really journalists, but they are citizens, and they are able to process things, so they can contribute. So that's why the quiz, to answer your question, do the quiz exclude people who are not smart? Oh, well, that's the kind of the problem with it, I would say, because if you fail at the quiz, you will not be allowed to comment. So if you are, for example, a child, or if you have some problems in your reading, like if you have dyslexia, or even worse problems of understanding text, then it would not be easy for that person or those people to respond. So that's a challenge. So maybe this is an elitist suggestion, but the questions are not really difficult. So I guess it's a low threshold thing anyway. It's not. So I would say most people, if you read the article closely, you will be able to take the quiz quite easily. So most people will manage.
So you told me it's an experiment, and they did it, but
They did an experiment first. They made first a little beta version and tried it out in different ways, of course, and then they put it online and introduced it. And now it's up and running, and
they actually use it right now.
They use it, and it has been covered in the media previously for. I think a couple of, I can send you links if you want to. There are a couple of articles written about how these things work, and in those articles it's also built-in suggestions, or there's a model for how it could be done by other news platforms. Yeah. They could. I haven't tried, but they have put in some kind of recipe of how to do it. And they also evaluated it after a while and put up some data about how many people took the test, how many failed, how many comments. So those data are also online in the follow-up article. But I think those.
So there is really research behind the logic of taking the quiz.
Yes, it is, because it's part of the experimenting, developing, innovating the kind of journalism between editorial and user-generated content. So they are trying to see if this is, of course, it's up and running, but it's many people here at the conference asked me about that. It was maybe 5 people, different people came up to me or emailed me afterwards about this, and those people are journalists or editors, and they wanted to ask me if it's possible to get the link, or to get to if they wanted to try it themselves, because they have really big problems with how to moderate, because it's so difficult.
Yeah, because you see it often that Scandinavian countries like Norway are really progressive, and still they have new ideas. For example, this. You also showed a picture, a cover of a magazine with the Nordic ideal model in your presentation. How does that translate it in itself in media? That the Nordics are an ideal model.
Yes, we are. The Nordic model. It is maybe not an ideal model, but because it can also be criticized like all models, but it has some advantages, and is, as you say, progressive. And of course, internationally, when countries have problems, economic problems, troubles in the media, troubles in society, many times they look at the Nordic or the Scandinavian countries and say they are making it work, you know, because we were not hit as hard with the financial crisis, and our society, even with the oil richness, we have managed kind of to have the equality, and nobody is like super rich and nobody is like super poor. So it said in the article that you're referring to, it was in the Economist, or that American or international magazine. They said about the Nordic region that it's the next supermodel, because it's not. It's not been as problematic as the other parts of Europe, for example, Southern Europe and America, and we have more stability politically and economically, and also the welfare state system is seen as something that's interesting for other countries to learn from. But their argument in the article is that it's a good place to live if you are an average person. If you're not super talented or super rich, and not like really lousy, but if you are like the average, the in between people, it's you could say that it's quite boring in a way. People could argue. I don't think so, but because we also have rich and poor people, of course, but not like the super
Yeah, indeed.
extremes. So I think the thing about Norway and Sweden and Denmark and the rest of Nordic is that we have quite high taxes. So it's a lot of things that we do together, like a community, like you have to contribute and then you get things back from the tax. You get free schools, free universities, and yeah, etc. And also for the media, this kind of collective responsibility for the public sphere is transferred to the media, where everyone has to contribute and pay the license fee, and then also taxpayers' money is put into subsidizing newspapers and also online newspapers. So the systems are adapted to the digital age. It's not like it was only in the print age. It's also innovative in the way and progressive, as you say, because we are thinking about ways to make this work also in the age of the internet and in the age because that's more tricky. Of course, because public service broadcasting and newspapers is very kind of their original rationale is no longer as strong because things are more in flux, more players are in the market. So we need to make sure that these things work for the best of the whole society. And in Norway we have in our constitution there's of course the freedom of speech, which are quite common. It says that you should be allowed to say whatever you want and write, and that's the kind of, there's no negative element, there's no hindrance of your speech, your freedom. But also, in addition to that, there's an amendment for positive freedom of speech, where the state is obliged to contribute to a well-functioning public sphere. So it's, at least we could compare, it's just as important as hospitals, prisons, roads, electricity, everything else that we need to collectively work together to secure, because information and media, news, it's part of the infrastructure in society, and without it, it wouldn't work. So that's the logic behind the Nordic model for the media, that I've called the media welfare state, because it's a welfare state also including the media, not only health and labor market and stuff like that.
And how can other countries of Europe improve and look at the Nordic countries and maybe involve their skills on case of the welfare state?
Yes, I think it's very different, because some countries in Europe have similarities with the Nordic region, just like Belgium, for example. Great Britain, they have public service and some elements. So there's similarities on some levels between some European countries, especially those I mentioned and related countries, but also. But it's not the whole package. You find elements of similarity, but also differences. So when we compare the Nordic region in my book with my colleagues, in that research we compared the Nordic region to, of course, other European countries, the US, and also countries in Asia. We found that on some aspects of the media system we maybe are more similar to some Asian countries, so it's not like everything we do is unique, but it's the package and the kind of and I think it's something about if the European states was to import our system or try to make it more similar on more specters, then it would be taking more as a responsibility of the state and of the collective as a society, that you have to get also the citizens to kind of and the political parties to agree that we cannot leave all the media to the market. We need to have some regulation. We need to have some thinking about what we want with the media. We need to have some strategies together, just like we do with hospitals and childcare and elderly, because it's this is maybe controversial, because in some countries they would say that, well, this is not for the state to interfere in, because it's problematic, because we need to have the free press, then it should be left to the market. But the argument is that the press is not free if it's depending on the market, because then it's dependent on the advertisers and the users, some sort of commercial dependency, either or. So you have the market on the one hand and you have the state on the other hand, and you have to have some god or some kind of income model that you have. Some people have birthdays.
Thank you.
So you have to have a space between the market and the state, because it should not be state media like in Russia, of course. It should be no state intervention in the editorial decision making whatsoever. And in order to make that work, you need really influx systems like a bureaucracy, and you need a system that's quite organized and well thought through. In Norway, I am part of something called the Complaints Committee, and that's really strange. But as a professor, they asked me to be in a complaints committee. That means that if one media house wants to buy another media house, sometimes that's against the law, because then you can't own too much. This law is common.
You have a monopoly.
This is common in many countries. This is not unique to Norway. But and then the company can complain and say, well, this is wrong, because we are not market leaders, we are not monopolists. It's also other players in this market. For example, this and this and this. But you're not counting it right, or there's something wrong. So they can complain. And then I'm in the board, also together with some lawyers and other people. And then we sit with all these complaints, and we have to deal with them. And complaints can also come from the movie industry about the age limits for the movies. If, for example, they think it's too high or too low, and then we have to evaluate. So we have people with expertise in film, also in the board, that they are, So this is like a complicated system, but it works. It works. So it takes some resources, of course, and not all countries would say that it's worth it. That okay, just leave it to the market, or. But I think all this kind of ownership rules and things like that is common in many countries. So you'll find that the Nordic region is not totally unique, but we have maybe more welfare state perspective on the media, that we want to, for example, secure diversity in the media, that we have diverse media outlets and news, and also around the countries. For example, Norway is really a long stretch country with small cities, and not even cities, but people who just live around in the countryside, and they should also have access to the media because of the principle of universality. They need local media, so the press subsidies in Norway, they support local media, local newspapers, local online newspapers, and they support also a variety of diversity of opinions in the newspapers. And also here, if you are a newspaper or an online site, you can apply for the subsidies, and sometimes you will be denied for some reason. You are not included in the system, and then you can complain, and then they come to us in the complaint committee. So it's
So you deal with all the problems.